Hi, good evening. Albert Einstein once said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow." He went on to say, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Well, that is where I am today. I do not want to stop questioning. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever been nervous or fearful of asking a question to your classmate, maybe, to your instructor, to your pastor, or your preacher? Well, I think as an adults, we have a responsibility to ask questions so we can grow from our mistakes or mishaps or misinterpretations. And that is my goal today, to talk to you about what I've learned. As a child, I didn't make great grades. I was nervous about asking questions to my teachers and my peers, and it was reflected in my grades. As an adult, interestingly enough, I really don't mind what my peers think about me, and I focus on my professors and or gaining knowledge from them to help me improve. So, I would like to talk to you today about the lessons I've learned from my instructor and my classmates on speaking, and how to implement what I've learned from them and their comments as I move forward. The first speech I gave was an informative speech on the power of prayer. And I focused on one prayer in particular that was answered by the Lord, and it really increased my faith. There were pros and cons in this talk. And first of all, my instructor told me that my thesis was clearly spoken. He went on to inform me that there was conviction and sincerity in my talk. He also stated that he enjoyed the personal examples and the visual aids that I was using during my talk. My classmates also agreed with him that my visual aids were good and they were well seen, clear, and a lot of comments from my classmates stated that the power of prayer was relevant to us all. Overall, they enjoyed the talk. There were areas for growth, and my instructor stated that even though my thesis was clear, the transition was not. The transition was fuzzy from point to point. He went on to state that, which I was afraid of, but he confirmed I had went over my allotted time. My classmates also agreed with him that my transitions were a little bit fuzzy in my first talk. In our book, The Challenge of Effective Speaking in the Digital Age, on page 99, it says nonverbal communication includes all speech elements other than actual words. Well, at one point in my speech, I got hung up on my note cards, and one of my classmates commented on the fact that I was so focused on the note cards that he lost interest in my speech for a minute and became focused on my cards also. So going back to what I quoted, my nonverbal words became such a distraction that I lost a positive element in my delivery. Now, the next talk I was giving was a demonstrative speech, and I demonstrated to my class how to clean a coffee pot. This time, I made it a priority to go over and over and over my coffee pot demonstration step by step with my stopwatch so I could stay in the allotted time and not lose points on that. Well, that paid off. My instructor and my classmates gave me great comments or feedback on the fact that they could tell I had practiced it, and it was very informative, very relevant to the class, as we had a lot of coffee drinkers in the classroom. In our book, The Challenge of Effective Speaking in the Digital Age, on page 235, we're instructed to organize the demonstration from first to last to help our audience remember the sequence accurately. Well, this is one thing I focused on in this coffee pot demonstration, the sequencing, as to help my audience so they would remember. Even though I had shown improvement, there was still room for growth. Contrary to my professor's opinion, I received feedback from my classmates that some of my thoughts were not clear. They were still a little bit fuzzy in the demonstration. This shows me again that I can't please everyone. However, take it for what it's worth and move on. In our book, again on page 235, it says, be sure that everyone in your audience will be able to see what you're doing. Well, this is an area that I feel that I failed. Neither my professor nor my classmates mentioned, but I've blown the whistle on myself because I remember a couple of my classmates were looking over someone's shoulder or looking around a computer to see what I was doing. So in retrospect and going forward, I will make sure that my demonstration is clearly seen throughout the class for everyone. Excuse me. Lastly, the speech I gave was a persuasive speech on men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. And my goal in this speech was to get the men to understand how women think and the women to understand how men think, because we think and process and learn differently. Now, going forward, when I was going up to give this speech, I was less nervous. So I had felt personally that I had grown a little bit in that area, and I felt well prepared. My classmates commented that I looked like I was at ease, and my classmates loved the visual paper or the visual aids that I used. I basically just gave them a paper with spaghetti and a waffle, a plate of spaghetti, and a waffle, so they would be able to have a visual to connect with what I was trying to say. And they really liked that. In our book on page 262, in the Challenge of Effective Speaking, it says persuasive speakers have an extra burden to demonstrate that what they are advocating is in the best interests of the audience. Well, this is what I was trying to do. As I explained to them, I gave them a visual aid, and I believe this is in our best interest. This was my goal. Although doing my best to improve on my delivery with my notes, an area that came back that from my classmates, an area of improvement that was commented on from my classmates was that I was still a little dependent on my notes, and that they would have liked me to step out from behind the podium, where I was standing. I was using my notes because I wanted to stress the facts so much. I didn't really want the speech to be so much about me being in the open, but I do see in retrospect how that would be more personable if I was to step out and get down on their level, if you will. Now, in our book, The Challenge of Effective Speaking, on page 285, it says, speech is to convince, focus on reinforcing or changing the audience's belief. So again, even though there was a negative response coming to me about standing behind the pulpit and focusing on my facts, this is kind of where I was at. I was thinking about the facts and presenting the facts more about, and trying to convince them to believe that this would be for their best interests rather than being out in front of them. So I can see exactly what they're saying and making it more personal. Getting out from behind the pulpit is what I should have done. So I truly enjoyed this class, and furthermore, I would like to say that I enjoy and appreciate the fact that we can combine biblical principles into our speaking. One of the biblical principles to which I believe is relevant is in the book of Luke. One way I try as an audience member to show grace to the speaker and to implement a truth is, even though I may not be the one speaking at the time, I try to make eye contact with the speaker. He or she, no matter where we are, church, classroom, auditorium, it doesn't matter where we are, but as a Christian, I try and show grace so it'll be shown to me in return. Because in Luke 6:38 and 39, it says, we should show grace, so in return we will be shown grace. Do not judge, lest you be judged. Do not condemn, lest you be condemned. And if you pardon, then you will be pardoned. And that pretty much sums it up for me. That was the NIV version. And that's how I feel. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Furthermore, I believe that if we have the opportunity to implement the truth in our speeches, well, then we should. If we are given a platform that will allow us to use biblical principles, then by all means, let us take the advantage. Our society is bombarded every day by negative, harmful, and unjust statements and or coercions from the advertisement, and propaganda displayed on local and national networks. If we are asked to be the salt and light, we should take advantage of that. It does not take much salt and much light to impact someone's life. In conclusion, what I have learned today has been great. What I have learned through this class has been great. And I have been able to see progress in my own life, in my own speeches, and I hope you have too. So I plan on using this in my degree as a teacher. My goal is to gain my Bachelor of Arts degree with elementary education as my focus. And I know going forward, I don't know the dynamics yet, but I can guarantee I'm going to persuade, I'm going to inform, and I'm going to demonstrate to my class different class scenarios, different assignments, different principles in life. I'm going to have the opportunity to use all of these speeches and everything I've gained today for my children. I can also say as a worship leader, this has sharpened my skills to be sensitive to the audience. This class was such a joy, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I definitely will incorporate the skills and techniques I have learned, the feedback and positive reinforcement I have received. I will use that, and areas of improvement. I will definitely incorporate that into my life as I go forward. Thank you.